Good morning to our listeners, those of you via Classic Radio, when it's 105.5 or 105.9. Good Monday morning to you. Those of you viewing GBN TV, whether it's Channel 7, Channel 11, and Channel 20, good morning and welcome. Those of you via our social media audience, whether it's the Facebook page, YouTube channels, I want to say good morning to you also and welcome. Let me say good morning to Mr. Sylvan McIntyre. I would say, well, season greetings, we already took care of that. Yes. Happy New Year.
Yeah, well, Happy New Year.
And welcome back to the show, sir. Welcome back.
Yeah, pleasant morning to you, GT, and a pleasant good morning to the entire GBN family and to all our viewers, listeners, followers, well-wishers, every one of you. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
It's good to be back.
Man, it's been a kind of couple of days into the new year. We saw what happened in Japan in terms of the earthquake. I mean, it is out of our jurisdiction a wee bit, but it also draws concern what could happen in our region. You never know.
We've been having earthquakes in our region recently. I
saw someone complain about one last night. We may not have felt, most people may not have felt it, but they were one within.
Yeah, a 3-point-something one, which is. And 10 kilometers is close to the surface, actually. And if it was a strong earthquake, we were going to have some consequences. But because a 10 kilometer is actually high.
Pretty high.
Close to the surface.
We also, off air a while ago, we were discussing, in terms of, weather conditions. We talk about, folks should look out for, conditions affecting us. And we saw what happened in where I was surprised. I was in the studio here.
Yeah.
Walked outside. Sun is blazing hot, as we say locally. And, in St. Andrew, They were going through, a condition update that was like unprecedented for them for a moment.
And as we were saying off air, that we could probably be forecasters to an extent, unofficial forecasters.
Unofficial forecasters, because
our intuition and our experience has, given us the ability to sort of predict some things that are likely to happen, and in addition to that, to be able to warn people off for the eventualities that are sometimes unexpected or they come up surprised.
Yes.
But I think if people follow us closely in terms of what we were saying, like we were getting the heat and so forth, we did say to the latter part, October, November, December, that traditionally this has been a new trend with climate change, etc. We've been seeing that pattern within the last decade or so, where the lower part of the year we've been having some insistent rain. We are torrential to an extent, and they've led to landslides and flooding in lots of areas. I am hoping that the devastation caused or the impact of it doesn't last too long when the people have tears.
Yes.
I know the government has initiated some response action through NADMA and the other entities, and they provided some support. I've seen the movement of some debris moving from one place to the other, and people are creating other land space with some of the debris that came down the soil. They are dumping it in some areas, and they are actually using it as reclaimed areas, filling up some.
But we've been having complaints of folks dumping dumping those debris in areas where it's not permitted also. So folks should refrain from doing that.
Yes,
I've been getting those calls, people complaining about that. People just dumping. We understand the reason why they dump, but you have to know there's an appropriate place for doing it. And we actually in the dry season now.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So we're looking at a late start of it to a point, more or less.
Not necessarily a late start. I think the prediction from the CIMH, the Carbon Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology, they did indicate that there would be some above average in terms of the amount of moisture and likely intrusion of rain and cloud system that we're likely to have in between. I think if you looked at it last year, so you follow it, in between January we did have some rain and so forth, and it seemed as though the dry season wasn't coming,
because I think it rained all up to March of last year.
It did.
It rained all up to March.
And so that produces a sort of a challenge even to farmers to be able to plan what they want.
Or predict a particular crop type for the season that they who need crop that may not need the magnitude of rain or water. There are crops that don't need that magnitude of water.
So we realized that we did have a shortage of soil for Christmas. The amount we did not get, and I think the rain did have something to do with that. Also the green peas. It's late.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, there was green peas. I actually bought a pound for $15.
I didn't get noticed at all. Well, in St. Andrew, I didn't go to St. Andrew for a wee bit now.
Yeah, so that did affect. We are going to have some more green peas, but it's going to be late.
A bit later.
And that's as a result of the weather. But it's the new normal, and as the experts have been saying, we have to learn to adapt to climate change. It will impact us, but we have to recognize that our actions could either exacerbate the situation or we can improve it by our own actions. And I will be speaking to one of my friend, and I did see myself, one of my friends from Canada who is visiting. They were doing some coastal and out ocean cleanup.
Okay.
And at the bed of the sea, she's been saying to me the number of things that they're finding, and it's having its really negative impact on the marine life. For instance, the styrofoam and other type plastic cups and so on. She's been seeing as they've been cleaning and picking up these stuff. They're seeing sea otters, they're seeing the octopus, baby octopus, and these things inside of those things they trapped. And over a period of time, that will have serious consequences on marine life. It will deplete our fishing and what we depend on in terms of getting our rich source of protein from the sea. And when you have people dumping improperly or in places that they should not, that's a negative consequence that we don't have. And as we spoke about dumping earlier on, we're seeing some no dumping sites.
Yes.
The solid waste department, they have been decommissioning and condemning and demoralizing. What do you call it? They were what's the word? They were breaking down some of these places where people were dumping.
Okay.
Right? Demolishing is
demolishing
the
the
right
word.
That's correct.
the word.
Demolishing. I wasn't getting that.
Yeah.
And so people are having. They're dumping in illegal areas and in places off roads, trucks that are given things to dump from business and commercial entities.
Yeah.
They are going into these byroads.
People who get into these scrap metal selling and so forth. I did mention to you one time we were supposed to do a program, but we didn't get to do it sometime earlier last year in the River Road area.
It eventually happened.
And it eventually happened. We were supposed to have done a show about that, but we didn't get to do it at all.
Right.
We're talking about the illegal dumping of these scrap metal and so forth, which became a hazard after a while.
Yes,
and,
of course.
And we saw this speaking out of the folks on River Road for about it. Of course, we had Blaze. He's who runs the Pan Wizard Fund. He spoke a lot about that until
I think he came on one of my. No, it wasn't him, but he did speak about.
And his actions, continue advocating for it, led to the Solid Waste Authority coming and take a look at it and have it removal. And no, it's completely removed now. And actually, just a couple of feet away, there was a second one.
Right.
Just at the feet of the mental hospital.
Yeah, interesting.
You understand? There was another one up there. I live in the area and I never noticed it before, but I guess because the bushes have started to take control of of it and covering it up.
Yes.
But that's in the process of being removed also.
Yeah, but the end result of all of this, and I did hear one of the ministers, and I think Prime Minister also spoke about it as well, in terms of people's action that may have led to flooding in some areas, what they do, dumping practices and construction practices that are not really authorized. These have led to land slippage in some areas, the blocking of river and streamways and so forth. And then the dumping of the illegal stuff, they make their way down through our streams, down through our rivers, and all the way into the sea. Yes. And we are getting those negative impacts from it. And what we are hoping that we can see, our action and the programs, we have been advocating for enforcement.
Yes.
And it's not just enforcement for traffic safety as we've been speaking about, but enforcement in general. There are health wardens, there are health inspectors, there are environmental inspectors, etc. And what we would want to see, one, we want to see the penalties, if they have to be increased. They should be increased. But penalties are there, and in most cases they are sufficient. They should be a deterrent. But we do not have the custodians really doing what they should do. And if we do have the environmentalists,
I think folks have been doing it and getting away with it. That's the problem.
Getting away. Too long we've been getting away with a lot of stuff. Yeah. And so we need to be able to see some more enforcement measures across country. And that's, again, regrettably, it regresses our economy. It causes this tremendous slowdown when government have to allocate resources to recovery rather than advancing the economy. When you have to go back and rebuild on things that you worked on before, and you have to go and give people things that they should have been getting themselves, or not even have lost it.
Yes.
That again slows down the resources that should have been allocated to health and to other issues that we really, really need to see happening. So I would want to really make this appeal across the airwaves that people should become more responsible and be a partner in combating climate change and the negative impact on our environment. That will help us tremendously. It will help our production in food, it will increase our health life, and it would improve our safety in general in terms of our environment and our living, our habitation, etc.
You spoke of the of course climate change, and there's still a lot of folks who don't believe that climate change really do exist, or believe I can remember once a caller called and said, the climate always changing, so there's nothing for us climate change. Why do you think people still have that tendency to believe that there's nothing called climate change that is really taking place?
I don't know if there's a huge majority of people that don't believe that there's climate change. That there are some things that people are very difficult to accept.
Yes.
But if you analyze the people who really bring forward those positions and those comments, you realize that they fall in a particular category. They may have some different kinds of challenge that doesn't afford them to assess, analyze, and make comments that really are progressively, positively contributing to our society. You analyze the people who make those comments and you realize, I hear this guy say so and I've heard this guy say so. And you put those folks together and you realize they probably came from similar
birds of a feather, as you would say.
And they are they are definitely in the minority. So we do not really want to. They definitely are in the minority, and if they cannot really wake up to smell the nutmeg or otherwise, you realize that we are going to get left. It's just like saying that tomorrow or the next day will not come, or night will not come. When night is on us, you put on a light. Because you put on your light that is very bright, and you light up the playing field, it doesn't mean that it's not night.
Exactly. And there's a reason for putting on the light, because it is night.
Exactly. So it's just like people saying, well, you've seen things happening around you. People saying it's climate change, and you say no, that there is no climate change. Then what are you saying? Really is a factor.
It's a fact.
And it doesn't mean because you're saying that it is not climate change that things are not happening. What's your action? There
are individuals who just believe things are going through their natural stages. I mean, I'm not saying that they're incorrect.
Right.
People are seeing things that may just go through their natural stages. So that has to happen because it's happening naturally. Or sometimes we see certain things are happening naturally.
Yeah.
But sometimes the effect for the natural way it is happening, it is climate change also.
Yeah.
It may have just speed up the process.
And if you look at when you look at the depleting of the ozone layer.
Yes.
And what you call the emission of greenhouse gases, etc. If you look at what the scientists have said to be the contributing factors, you realize that it is man who has created those things that's creating the depleting of the ozone layer. And the same greenhouse gases you recognize through the same scientific testing, the impact and consequences they can have.
And because of the doing of man causes it.
Exactly. You use mosquito repellents, you realize, yes, it is repelling the mosquitoes.
Yeah.
But you realize if you use it too much in a confined space, what the impact it can have on your own health. But it does have its place, and if you are able to balance and reduce it in a certain way, it means that you could decrease the impact of it having those negative consequences.
Yes.
So this is why the champions are there saying, reduce this, control this, and we can have a different kind of result.
All right. It's interesting to note. Like that, we due for a break. Let's take a phone. We have another interesting segment coming up. Of course, we're going to talk about, of course, your foundation, your son's foundation.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that for you a bit. We're going to talk about some of the initiatives that you put in over the holidays. They were interesting. I happened to I was at one of them. I didn't make you see me for some reason.
Really?
I kind of stood in the background and looked on.
You
kept
did?
a distance.
Okay. I
was wondering. I said I didn't want him to put me on the spot, so I kind of said in the distance.
I didn't want you to put me on the spot either. but yes, we are going to comment on that.
We're going to comment on those when we come back. All right, stay with us, folks. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio GBN TV. We'll be right back after the short break. Stay with us, folks.
Celebrate Christmas Christmas and New Year with the NLA's exciting You Must Win promotion. Spend $15 or more in a single ticket purchase on Daily Pick 3, Daily Cash 4, or Playway, and just like that, you have chances to win prizes valued at over $100,000. Winning is easy. Simply check your tickets for the words "You won," free cash, free phones, free tablets, or free Instacash tickets. But wait, that's not all. You can also win free raffle entries for chances to win not one but 2 cars in NLA's You Must Win promotion. Promotion runs December 1st, 2023 to January 31st, 2024. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 18 and over to participate. The NLA, making your Christmas and New Year dreams come true.
GBN Television News at 7, a pulse on all things Grenadian. Look out for our new features through expanded synergies with our media partners in Barbados, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad, and beyond. Capturing the latest in news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Credible, informative. Thank you for making us number one. News at 7, live, Monday to Friday on GBN Television, Channel 7 and 11. K105.5 and 105.9, Hot 98.5 and 98.7, GBN Television Facebook page and YouTube channel, and www.gbn.gd. GBN, with you anywhere and everywhere.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, to The Point here, Classic Radio, GBN TV. Once again, Mr. Sylvan McIntyre with me this morning. Mr. McIntyre, over the Christmas holidays, you've been part of a couple of initiatives. Tell us, before we actually get into some of the initiatives that you've been part of over the, of course, instituted over the holidays. Let's hear about, the progress you've been making with the Sylvan McIntyre I keep missing Asha McIntyre Foundation. How is progress going ahead with it in terms of what the plans for 2024 and so forth?
Yes, before I really speak on the plans, there are a couple of things that I wish not to forget. Let me just say it up front. In terms of, again, I like to, commend initiatives that I see, and I like to thank people that have been giving us the feedback on our programs.
Yes.
And over the Christmas holidays, New Year's, I've been meeting a few people who said that the program was a bit sparse, they were missing us, and they did say how meaningful it is to them, and they look forward to it. I met a lady, I think just a couple of days ago on the Grandland speech. I was just there in my quiet time, and she came with another gentleman, and they spoke to me and said, we follow you on the GBN, and a number of people, and the kind of a thank you they say, and the expression and so forth. As I say all the time, it gives me that kind of a energy to continue doing that. There are a couple of road safety initiatives that we've seen happen over the last couple of days as well. We're going to speak to them. But the Asha McIntyre Foundation for Road Safety is one of those that we initiated that is driving some of those things. And we said the conversations that we're having, even if we're not seeing huge movements, but we're seeing small movements, and they could well be contributing to those actions.
Okay.
Recently, I saw some road signs on the Morris Bishop Highway.
Put up by the
by business
one of those tire companies. Yes.
And they did speak of some safety signs, and these
I was impressed by that a whole lot.
Definitely, I am, and we're looking for more initiatives. But we'll be championing the cause to see other types of safety billboards and road signs go up, and we are hoping that sooner rather than later we're going to be moved to the electronics that seem to capture the attention much easier.
Yes.
And you can generate different type messages and so forth. So those are some of the initiatives that we want to commend, and we've seen that on the Morris Bishop Highway, and kudos to those who've done it, and we're looking to see more. In terms of there are callers who called and spoke of the box drains and slipper drains that are having its negative consequences. The box drain that they did say when vehicles get down in them, they damage them. And we've seen a number of them over the
Christmas holidays.
Christmas and New Year holiday.
Yep.
They went off into these box drains and so forth. And people have spoken of them, and I I want to commend the initiative in the tongue of St. George, the Lucas Street area.
Yes, I see they've
remember
been covered.
That's correct.
Yes.
Some caller did mention on the program as well that they were speaking about they had to get off, walk into the road. And there was some box drain and they were covered. And that's the kind of a thing that we want to see happening. We're hoping that further up Upper Lucas Street towards that old government section, the Red Cross on the opposite side, going up that road.
Yes.
Huge box drain. We're hoping that it takes a bit of finance to do them, but it is very much more user-friendly. It is safer for our roads. Our pedestrians can get off to the sides and the motorists can use the motorway. And so we're seeing that box drains are relevant. They're unavoidable in some places, but when they are implemented or instituted, they should be covered. Like you can put the concrete covering, or you can use the metal rails to cover them. Motorists can get more road space, pedestrians can get safer walking spaces. And these are a few commendable initiatives I've seen, and I really, really look forward to seeing more happening as we become safer across country. Yes. So I needed to say that, the thank you, and I needed to raise the commendations for those safety initiatives we've seen. So over the Christmas holidays, we have progressed tremendously. I did say we were slow in some things because we wanted to ensure that the foundation was getting its proper footing.
Yes.
We had some directors who were out of country, and so our instrument did not come through finally. But we are nearing the point where all our legal pieces, the dots are being placed over the I's and the T's are being slashed as we speak.
Okay,
so in a matter of days, we should be having our instruments that gives us more legal footing to initiate things across Grenada. But in the meantime, we have been generating some initiative. And we thought then that Grenada needed a safety gift for Christmas. And so we are going to expand the Christmas gift into New Year's and into the 50th anniversary for Grenada, all the way into the independence.
Right.
Now, that initiative involved safety, and we targeted bus drivers and conductors. They are part of the informal sector that are not usually available for formal training sessions, and so we decided that they are usually the first people to either be involved or to see accidents. And if we are able to give them a safety gift, a skill that they can use or to pass on to somebody else when there is an accident, we think that would be worth $1 million. And so we went to Soteas. We were very well received.
All right.
The Soteas people, as a matter of fact, we have to go back. I did have some people call me, Pastor King and his wife again. Happy New Year's to you. There were some of my fans that did call back and say, Son of the Soil, great initiative. And again, this gave me some good reason to want to go back. The people say, you need to come back. There will be more people. So as we do this across Soteas, if you're listening, you know groups of persons who would want like church groups or community groups and so on, let me know. Call my number, shoot me an email, and we'll be coming out there free of cost to ensure that we give Grenada that kind of a skill that is life-saving and lifelong lasting. And then we went off to the Grenville bus terminus as well, and we were very well received. We had the bus terminus authority participating. We had wardens, we had security officers, we had bus drivers and conductors there as well. And while the numbers were not as great, but the initiatives there, that was well received. And we went to St. George, and on the screen now we're looking at some bus drivers in the tongue of St. George itself.
All right.
They are getting hands-on skills. They received it, and they again expressed, Mr. Mac, that you should come back. We will speak to the authorities. Maybe the bus associations will grab onto this.
Yes.
And then we will go back and continue to do that for the bus drivers and conductors.
The acceptance of it especially from the St. George's, I was there to witness it a wee bit. As I said, I stood in the background a wee bit. How did you feel in terms of, your presentation towards the drivers and so forth? How did you feel in terms of the presentation? How acceptable was it for those who participated?
Yes. Those who participated, I felt good about it. And my thing is, if I'm able to reach one person, I think my work is well done. And there were quite a number of persons there, not the numbers I was expecting.
Yes.
Because obviously it was the season where everybody wants to, the bus driver, they want to pong the road.
They were on the hustle, as
they
you
want
would
to
say.
hustle and so forth. So they did say if we come back in an organized session on maybe a Sunday or less active day, they are very much willing to come back. And, that gave me a sense of, you know what, this is meaning something to somebody.
Yes.
And then people called back and said, we saw you. And that is really, really good. One of the things that moved me quite a bit, I met a lady at one of the banks in the mall, I think Cooperative Bank. And she said to me, I followed and I listened, and the lady was expressing to me and repeating almost all of the presentation that I did. And she said, yeah, I took it in. And she said, that is so, so good. She said she's going to pass it on. And when I heard that, I said, here is one person who really took in the information that we gave about safety. My job is well done.
I like the aspect of the St. George's one because from time to time there have been incidents occurring there.
Yes.
We had individuals who may have, for various reasons, had different mental, not should I say the word mental, but various illness.
Medical
illness that may have occurred to them, that may have led, if folks were able to make that instant intervention, they have saved those individuals' life to a point. I'm just suggesting it could have. You understand? Early intervention will always save life. And some of the things that you were saying there, and I know some of the drivers and conductors who looked on, they may say, maybe if we have done that.
Yeah.
And we have seen incidents where folk get into fights and all of these things, and certain things could have done that could have, saved that individual lives or make it easier for them in time to come, not expanding or more on the injury.
Yes. And let me say this. Even if we do have a formal training organization where we provide certification for people in emergency response, first responders, first aid, etc. It has not been about the dollars and cents. The idea was there are quite a number of people who may not be able to afford getting to a certification point. The bottom line, one doesn't need a certificate to perform first aid.
Yes.
You don't need it. You just need to understand what to do, and you can save a life.
And we're talking just the basics for now. The basic first aid.
And that was the driving force behind me deciding through our organization to go outside there to deliver that training and to allow people to develop that skill that could save a life. And so when someone collapses, there's a way that you need to handle them, pick them up, or to deal with them. And people said, somebody collapsed, and the crowd would say, don't touch them. And regrettably, people lie there and they perish because there's nobody there who really could have said how to lift them. Now, in Grenville here, we were actually demonstrating a makeshift stretcher by the use of a blanket and 2 regular pieces of wood. This gentleman that you see there, he's almost 300 pounds.
Yeah.
And just the two of us with 2 pieces of sticks and a blanket
was able to lift him comfortably.
And sometimes people think, we can't move somebody. And then even the clothes that people wear, shirts, trousers, etc., you can use them to make something to move somebody who may have some difficulty in movement. The other part of this, which I really delivered in the training, was that if somebody fall from somewhere or they meet in a crash, you want to suspect they may have spinal injury. So moving them on a blanket or a piece of clothes would not be appropriate.
Yes.
What you want to do is to get something solid, flat and solid, so you can support the spinal area, the vertebrae and so forth. Keep the body in one unit so you can get them to help. And I think people seeing that, people getting the hands on, that meant to them quite a bit.
It changes the whole concept of it now. I'm just hearing you saying, well, you need something hard, but actually seeing it been done.
Yes.
Brings a whole different perspective to it now.
Absolutely. So what I did, I did have a spine board or a back board that we normally would use to carry people suspected with spinal injury. But I was able to find board in some areas to demonstrate to people. This that I'm having here is an official piece of instrument that is designed to do that.
Yes.
But you don't need to have it. You can just use the basics in first aid is using readily available material. The guys that you're seeing there, they are bus drivers.
Yes.
they actually were the ones doing it. And one of the philosophy in learning is to be able to do. You retain so much more by doing than by just
that hands-on experience. You would say.
Hands-on experience. That these guys are doing there. Some of them may have been exposed to first aid before, they're not. But when they did this, behind the scenes, they came back and expressed to me. You see the gentleman who's standing there and he's looking and really keen?
Yes.
That gentleman was just taking in what was happening, and eventually at the end we were having conversations and they were saying, well, they understood this before, but getting involved in it meant so much more to them.
Before the matter of just hearing about it,
yes.
you can use this, as you just mentioned, as you said, just hearing that, you can use the clothes that an individual is wearing.
Yeah.
But actually, being seen it being used for the actual purpose makes a whole big difference. Brings a different light.
The two pieces of wood that you see there, I was walking someplace and I saw those pieces of wood and I just took them and threw them in the vehicle.
Yeah.
And look, the gentleman, you see this? That's just a shirt and a piece of trouser, and he's there. And look at it. The guys are going to just lift this. It's going to take the body weight. And look at that. I just want people to just see that. And there's a proper way of even stooping and bending. He's not bending proper. He should have his back a bit more straight. And take
that would take the pressure
on
of
the thighs and the legs, etc. But yes, you go down and look at that. That is just, it look untidy in terms of the clothes hanging around.
Yes.
But it's actually serving the purpose. Able to lift up that two pieces of wood, clothes that somebody was wearing, you're able to lift somebody in an emergency to get them out of the sun. Somebody said to me that there was someone who fell one time, even on the terminus.
Yes.
And they felt really sorry because the sun was blazing and that person was lying on their face or otherwise in the sun. And people think, well, I can't move that person. And a myth that we want to dispel is that people tend to believe that when somebody has epileptic, or they have some level of seizure, it is contagious, so they don't want to touch them. That is not true.
Yes.
It's actually an electrical malfunction within the brain system that causes the person to convulse or to go into what you call seizures.
Yes.
There is no known cure for that, but it could be appeased by some level of medication. And so that aspect is not contagious. And it can really be controlled by people's action and by the use of medication. So when somebody gets in a seizure or they collapse, they will injure themselves, or that situation can cause fatality or otherwise because they happen to fall and hit themselves on the foundation.
Most time you see that bopping of the head, hitting of the head.
Strike the head,
yes.
Or they may hit against something before they actually hit the ground. And this is what may, in most cases, have generated injuries and lead to death and sometimes disabilities, because people didn't understand that somebody with seizure, it's not contagious, and you actually can control them. You can take them to the ground. You can put them to lie, and when they're waiting there, you don't leave them lying on the bellies or on their back just like that, but you put them on their sides, which is the recovery position. Position the leg in a particular way so that they don't roll over. You tilt the head slightly back so that if the airway is restricted, that they can breathe until they're taken to a hospital or until expert help.
Right. As a youngster, seeing somebody who has the epilepsy and so forth, and you see them when the incident occurred to them, and you would want to run away from them, or stay far, as some folks would say, because you think, well, you may have the option of getting contaminated from them.
Yes.
And it's I can always remember one time, just after the invasion of Grenada.
Yeah.
There was an individual, a gentleman that I knew who had the same epilepsy, and I saw one of the Jamaican soldiers.
Yeah.
And he came to the gentleman, and he was asked for something to support his head.
Yes.
And he said, just keep the head up.
Yes.
And that's how, it kind of changed your whole perception. Because for years, I would always notice that particular gentleman having an epilepsy course effect.
Yes.
And we just leave him there until he comes out. He recovers.
Yes.
And he recovered faster.
Because his head was placed in a position where he was able to breathe easier.
Yes.
Yes. But having said, be mindful of wanting to touch people, it is also still not a bad thing to be conscious that a person may have what is called body substance isolation, BSI, meaning that you want to be mindful that the substance that people are secreting or that may come from them, saliva, blood, any kind of body substance, they may contain substances that people can contract other things.
Yeah.
So it is oftentimes the right thing to do to protect yourself before handling someone.
But still offer the assistance anyway.
But still offer the assistance. The use of face masks still is useful because COVID is still around.
Yes.
HIV is still something that is there that people can get through body fluids, etc. And you need to be mindful of that. And then you also have the other form of diseases that people may have that you need to be conscious of as well. So there are things one can do. It is good for people to have in their vehicles like gloves and sanitizers, rather than filling your bags and your wallet with all kind of different things. Have a pair of gloves. Have maybe a face shield, a face mask or something that you can use.
Clean rags and so
have
forth.
Clean rags and sanitizing solution that you can use before, during and after trying to help someone. It is important that we do that. We have to culture ourselves differently in terms of safety to ensure as we go on the roads that vehicle owners and drivers, bus owners, we're gonna drive that across. And we're hoping that it's going to be institutionalized, or it may become a legal requirement that if you own a bus, that you have a first aid kit on the bus, and your conductor or yourself, you're trained in first aid.
And it probably could be part of the inspection process also, where the police force,
because it is not about making a dollar at any cost. Someone is in an emergency, you should be able, if you are providing a public service, you should be able to provide some level of safety and comfort for the passengers or your customers or your clients. So as we move towards health and safety in the workplace, the idea of having people trained and certified in first aid is something that we need to institutionalize across board. And the idea of within that transportation sector, if you are going to provide that service, we're saying that you should be mandated to be trained in first aid. You prove that you can do some first aid, and not only do that, but in your workplace, there's a first aid station and there's a kit there that people can use. And in your bus, you have garbage bags for trash, and you have somewhere in your vehicle where there's a first aid kit that if somebody gets into some kind of emergency, and then you have some over-the-counter medication like paracetamols or Panadols, etc., that you can help people to appease some serious pain that they may be having for some time that they can use. I am thinking big. I'm thinking safety, and I think that this is the angle that Grenada needs to go. And once we've done that, the instruments that we put in place, the legislation must complement it, and the enforcement must be the driving behind it, it is enforced.
All right, great. Mr. McIntyre, we drew for another break. Let's take it. When we come back, we're still going to continue on that vein of the initiative. There's lots more pictures we can show, and other videos we can show and chit-chat about that. Stay with us, folks. We're coming right back here on To The Point. We also encourage your calls. Those of you who probably had the opportunity to look at the videos that we've shown, or you probably were at the location, you feel free to give us a call and show some, of course, say thanks in some way there for if you may have learned something, or you may want the initiative and come to you.
Yes. And people may want to join us in our next round of training and our next round of delivering these safety gifts to Grenada. There's an opportunity to do that. So we're going to speak about it later on.
And we're coming right back, folks. Stay with us.
Looking to make a fashion statement as you...
Tips of your fingers
back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, to The Point. In our final segment this morning, 15 minutes moving up before 10 o'clock. And I see we have a caller coming in, Mr. McIntyre. Let's entertain this caller. Let's see what they have to contribute this morning. Caller, you're welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. And first and foremost, bright and prosperous, God bless 2024 to the two of you.
Yes,
and thank you so very much for what you are addressing in particular. But I do have a question. Yes, I have seizures, as most people or many people would have heard me say very publicly, and so I'm epileptic. My greatest concern is legal protection of such persons, especially given an instance I had been told about years ago when I was still working at GBN, where a man coming from a St. Paul's bus, or he was on a St. Paul's bus coming into town in 8 o'clock traffic, and he started having seizures on the bus. And the passengers decided they did not want to travel with him. They were uncomfortable. I'm not blaming anybody for being uncomfortable for such a thing. It is not an easy thing to look at on a video, let alone to be around, you know. But what actually happened was the driver and the conductor pulled up when they got to the roundabout at the top of Lothers Lane there, because they were heading into town. Pulled on the side, lifted this man with fits, with seizures, however you want to call it, and they arrested him on the pavement. As they were about to get back onto the bus, a lady was sitting on her veranda, I guess maybe having tea or something, and she called out, "Hey, what are you doing there?" They looked at her again, got back on their bus, and they drove off with their passengers, leaving that man on the sidewalk. Now, when I heard about that, it was a nurse who told me about it. She had heard about the incident. I went on the radio as I got to work immediately, and I spoke to those people. And tell me if I was right or wrong, if I am supported legally. I said, do you realize if anything had happened to that man, because each seizure that you get, each fit that you get, I know from personal experience it can be your last. Okay? That man was choking on his froth, and it could have stopped his breathing, and he could have died. And I said, don't let me find out who any one of you is, because I'll be coming after you with the law. Now, what is there in our law here in Grenada to protect such persons with such conditions, and especially when situations like that occur? Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. And
thank you. I recognize the voice there, Tony. And it's a tough one, but it's not impossible to react to it. With first response and first aid, one has a moral obligation more than a legal one.
Yes.
In terms of contributing factors to the inability to act, or something happening as a consequence of your result, could be in a charge of manslaughter or an accessory before or after the fact, technically. But in this case where there is a response, it's already a moral obligation, and subject to anything differently, I do not know where anybody is mandated by law to render assistance to anybody. It's really technically a moral obligation, a civic responsibility for people to do. But in terms of the action where something may have happened in the presence of another person, and your action or your lack thereof could have contributed to the death of the person, there could be conditions that could be explored for looking at your negligence or whether your actions contributed to the death of the person. In such a case, a person could either be charged for either manslaughter or, as I said, accessory before something may have happened or happened. In case of an accessory before the fact, it usually is in a crime situation where you did give some level of support to somebody else, or your action directly or indirectly contributed to committing the crime. But in cases where there is a medical condition, it may be a condition as to whether or not your actions contributed to the death of the person, and there the legal parameters come in. But I'm not aware. It is something that we can research, and maybe other legal minds can come in on or chime in on it. But my limited knowledge does say that really and truly, when we were trained, it's really a moral obligation that you have to render first aid. If by reason of your job, it is a requirement to render first aid, you can be held legally liable for failing to function. If it's in your workplace and you are trained, and it is a condition, it's either an appendage or a condition within your job description, you are mandated to perform that task. You could be held responsible. But if you do not have any form of binding by any instrument,
you don't have
there's no real charge for that.
All right. Let's take another caller. I guess we lost that caller. 435-2041. And that's.
And GT, it's unfortunate though, but I'm hoping that our citizens, by reason of who we are, Grenadians, that we would be more considerate. And I think lack of knowledge and understanding as to what was happening, and in some cases greed. Because the bus driver and other person may think if they tend to attend to this person,
they'll lose a couple dollars.
And in other cases where the people acted in certain ways because of the ignorance or the knowledge that they could have handled it differently.
All right. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning. Yes. Over the weekends, there are limited broadcasting taking place on our airwaves and even on the television. Some media houses shut down, some are very limited broadcasting. Now, if Grenada is facing an imminent danger, some disaster over the weekends, it could pose a serious problem for the citizens of this country, even causing increase in fatalities depending on what the disaster is. I would like NADMA to look into that situation. It is a situation which probably has been overlooked over years, and you have to have some kind of wisdom to come up with a matter like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Copy, caller. And that's a pretty sensible suggestion there.
Yeah, but in terms of his comment is really honored, but I don't think you require the physical positioning of persons in a media house to be able to get information across to people. With the instruments available now, you can do them remotely. You can, by the click of your instruments, you can get information across and get to the airwaves. I think what the caller is intimating is that radio stations should be a bit more active during weekends and public holidays, because information and news and all these things, they do happen on weekends, which is really credible. Yeah,
understandably so. Caller, you're welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm calling concerning the kit that you were talking about for the bus drivers and stuff.
Yeah.
Go right ahead, please.
Okay, and that's a very, very, very valid thing to have. Very valid. Concerning the person who was talking about somebody who was left on the side of the road from the bus. Now, you said that some people cannot be touched or whatever, but in that incident, the person should wait until help comes. In that case, money is not an issue. Everybody in the bus, it could have been them or the family or their mom, somebody. So that person should be waiting until help comes for that person. So you don't have to know health care to help them, but you should be waiting for help to come. Otherwise, it could be charged of neglect. Once you arrest them there, you are responsible for that person's life. One point. My mom got sick in the bus terminal. She passed out. And the bus driver is a little old red bus. He drove the bus with everybody straight to the hospital and saved my mom's life. That's all I'm saying. You are responsible. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. And you see, not everyone does the same, right?
Yeah, not everyone does the same. As I was saying about the moral responsibility and so forth, I don't know if what the caller is saying that you are responsible, if that is driven by law. We're yet to be advised on that. If you can find the instrument in law that says that the person is responsible, then yes. But I did say, as a professional in particular fields, you will be held responsible. Mm-hmm. But as a regular citizen, it's really a moral obligation so far as I'm aware of.
Let's entertain another caller. Caller, you're welcome. Good morning.
Yes, good morning and Happy New Year to you, Mr. McIntyre. I just want to say to the gentleman that called a while ago about the closing down of the media houses, I just want to say you don't know what you've got until it's gone. Okay?
All right, thank you. Thank you, caller.
Thank you, caller, as well.
Thank you, caller, so much. 4352041. So we have approximately 4 minutes left on today's program, and the calls are coming. So let's entertain another one. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Telesford. Greetings to you and your guests. Yes, Mr. McIntyre, I want to applaud your initiative on the road safety initiatives you're doing. Is wonderful. I wish every bus driver could be get the training you're giving. I want to also suggest that if the government, out of these monies they are spending for the celebrations, independence celebrations, to put a rail on Market Hill. Market Hill really need a rail for elderly people like me and other people with knee pains and other problems could walk comfortably up and down Market Hill. And also I want you to suggest to the government to look around the island and put guardrails where they're really needed. There are a lot of areas they have been putting, but we really need more for the independence. And just briefly of food security again is always my pet thing. You know, as you suggest, climate change has taken place and it can impact our food sector, which is agriculture. We do not have an agro-processing plant. And we cannot talk about food security if we cannot preserve our food. We do not. So we need to learn different ways that we can preserve our food. And I'm asking the government to give some money to NADMA, whatever the name is, to store up some food, things like salt and matches and candles, and then the foods that we can preserve. Go on the internet and learn to preserve our foods, like drying our breadfruit or provision, etc., planting a lot of cassava, yam, sugar cane, and things. A lot of things could happen if, to us, we could starve if for some reason a boat can't come or a natural disaster take place and destroy our agriculture sector. God forbid. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, sir.
Thank you so much. Great.
Good contribution.
There's a question from someone here, Mr. McIntyre. Let me see if we could throw this one out because we're strapped for time. Someone is saying one concern they have in terms of safety gloves. They're saying that they tend not to last long in heat and should not be stored in a car or bag, if possible, to be exposed oneself to harm with weak or thinning gloves. The question is there a simple way to preserve gloves in car or bag and have them last longer? Someone is asking that question.
Yeah, absolutely. There are instructions on the boxes that will tell you the best stored in a particular temperature. And with the average vehicle now, most vehicles are air conditioned. Yes. And so if you store them in the glove compartment, that is safe enough. It would repel the external heat for quite some time, and they should be inspected before use. And they should not be kept in locked up and closed place for any excessive period of time. There is also a best before use and expiry time on them that people should pay attention to. But if they are exposed to the regular heat, you leave them in the seats exposed, they're on the dashboard and so on, they will depreciate very, very quickly. So if they are stored internally in little boxes or cardboard stuff on the inside, they will last a longer period of time. And there's actually guidance instructions on those things that tell you what temperature ratings they would be lasting at best.
And you say the proper storage. You can store it. Mr. McIntyre, we got to that segment of the morning. I see we do have a final caller. Let's probably entertain this final caller.
Definitely.
And it will be our final caller. Yes. And we move on. We take a close for today. Caller, you're welcome, and you'll be our final caller. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, sir. I'm Mr. Sylvan. I don't know if you could advise me if I need advice now. A few months back, I had a brother at the General Hospital. He was sick with some part of his throat. Couldn't swallow and so on. He remained there for some time. and I went to see him. And while seeing him, he got up from the bed and asked me to, he didn't ask me to feed him, but a nurse was coming to feed him. And she asked me to feed him. So I refused. I told her I don't have the right to feed him. The next day, I heard he died. So I'm asking you, if I had the right to feed him, or if I had fed him, and perhaps they want to implicate me and say that I helped kill him, if that could have happened, or what actions could I take, seeing that they didn't feed him and he died the next day? Help me.
Thank you, caller, so much. 435-2041. That was our final call anyway.
Yeah, that definitely is a final call. But what I want to close in saying to him is that every entity does have its regulation and it does have its principles, and there's always somebody as a supervisor, somebody is in charge, and they will give instructions as to what to do and what not to do, and whatever they say to do or not to do, they would be guided by some principle or some law. And if they fail to do, the consequences are there and the penalties are there according to law. And if one needs any recourse in terms of whether it was wrong or right, legal or not, there's always the legal entities, the lawyers and so forth that they can get legal advice from where that is concerned. But finally, I think we had a good program this morning.
Yes,
there are some initiatives where safety on the roads are concerned. There are some things that we'll be rolling out during the course of 2024 that we still keep into our chest that we're going to allow people to know. But something that we're still looking to see in terms of road safety is that for people to be a bit more conscious in constructions, things that they build, we're going to highlight some of them in our next program. And in terms of for rails and other things, the guardrails, as somebody mentioned, they should go in some places. Hitmeasy is one of those places that they should go. We saw the area being cleared a little bit. I'm hoping that it's one thing that they're considering. And we also advocated earlier on for consideration for a railed walkway under the Sendal Tunnel.
Yes.
It is something that they should really consider. The rail could be broken up in small segments where people could go in and out, but they should be channeled to move in one direction. The vehicles stay on one side and pedestrians stay on one side. And if there is a railing that is about 24 inches, people can walk there. If it gets too crowded, they can come out and step back in and so forth. I think it's something that we need to consider. It's something I look at all the time, and I believe we can make our pedestrians a bit safer, because sometimes they are struck by mirrors and other things coming through the tunnel which could be avoided.
I always thought the Sendal Tunnel be used for pedestrian use only. It should be used for pedestrian use only, and just find some other alternative route for the vehicles to pass. Just my opinion on it.
Maybe difficult based on the construct of St. John, but yes.
So, I want to thank you once again. It's a pleasure to have you as always. I want us to continue on this leg next week, even though we may have implemented there's so much more of the initiative that you took, the gift that you give, and we could continue on that next week on the line, maybe expand on it some more in terms of some of the information, because there's lots that we didn't have to mention. We were supposed to do in this final segment, but the cause dominated to a point. So we probably will chime in on that next week again with other folks that we implement also.
But while the grass is growing, the horse is starving, there are some real risk places that I want us to really look at. I have some polls and so that I want to show that have become roundabouts.
Yes.
We need to check on that. Grandetang is one of the places in the national park where there's some poles right in the middle of the road. They need to check on that. There's a business place in the south. There's a pole right in the middle of that business place. We have pictures of it. We're going to show that next week.
Sure.
And then there's some walls coming down in the south as well. Improper practice maybe in constructing and so forth. These are something that produces threat to road users that we want to highlight in our next program.
All right. Sylvan, thanks once again. I want to thank our listeners and viewers, especially those of you who called, those of you who viewed. Thank you so much, those of you sat at home and listen. Thank you so much for being part of the program this morning. Join us again for another edition. Myself and Sylvan, that will be next week, Monday. Tomorrow is Opposition Tuesday. Join us for, of course, the guests I've been having in studio. Join me for that. Until then, have yourself a good one, folks. This was it.